Welcome to VHS Voyage, where we are on a journey to find, watch, and discuss movies on VHS we've never seen or never knew existed. I'm Matt.
I'm Devin.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about
Komodo.
So in the previous episode of VHS Voyage last week, we talked about a movie called Boa. If you missed that, link will be in the description down below. And the reason I mention that is because at the end of this episode, we're going to answer the question, which movie is better, Komodo or Boa? But before we do that, we got to talk about Komodo. And before we start getting into the story and all that other good, juicy shit, Devin, hit us with some facts and information. I can't imagine you were able to find much about this one.
No, not at all. So this is directed by Michael Lantieri. Only movie he directed. IMDb.
I'm going to say 3.6.
It's 4.2.
4.2. A little bit higher than I thought.
A little bit higher.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit higher. It made the 4. Rotten Tomatoes, only audience is available.
Okay, Rotten Tomatoes audience, I'm going to say 35.
It's lower.
22.
20, yeah.
20, okay.
So that one wasn't good. This stars Joe Hennessy, Billy Burke, and Kevin Zegers. This was supposed to be released in theaters, but the distributors pulled out at like the last minute, so it went straight to VHS. So it's not a TV movie. Mm-hmm. It's not a theatrically released movie. It was just straight to video or whatever they call it.
Yeah. I mean, the only other interesting thing I can think to mention here is on the front, it says it's from the writer of Anaconda. Like that's some kind of badge of honor. I'm just going to kind of run through the story beats of this movie. I'm going to spoil the whole movie, so not that you should ever watch this, but you can live vicariously through us. So here we go. So it opens with a long opening credits, which this movie has one of the weirdest openings and setups I've seen for a while. So it opens with this redneck. He's got a truck. He buys a bunch of animals from an Asian man. He's driving his truck. For some reason, he pulls over, pulls out a crate full of giant eggs from the back of his truck and throws them in the swamp, and then gets back in his truck and drives off. Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
And then it cuts to daytime, same swamp, and it says 19 summers later.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just say years?
I remember thinking that. Also, why didn't they just do 20?
Yeah, right.
Why 19?
Yeah. That's how the movie opens up, and you know, you're obviously going to assume with the movie called Komodo that those eggs were Komodo dragon eggs, and I didn't even realize, do lizards lay eggs? Dude, I'm serious. Do lizards lay eggs? That's a serious question.
Yes.
There's a ferry coming into this island. We get introduced to one of our main protagonists in the movie, a young boy named Patrick. He's coming to this island with his mom and dad. They get to this island. Patrick starts exploring.
Oh, they didn't live there?
Dude, this is what I don't understand. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Okay.
I don't understand what this island was.
Oh.
They were like the only people on the island. It doesn't make
I thought
sense.
they lived on this island.
Apparently, they've got a house on the island. Maybe it's like a summer house or something.
Okay.
But the movie doesn't explain any of this, right? You're just supposed to just assume. Patrick's exploring the island. He goes to a hideout that he has. He catches a lizard with a rope, and the lizard gets eaten. He pulls a bloody rope back, and that's your first hint that the Komodos are on the island. And then it cuts to his parents at their house. They go in their house. It's been ransacked by what appears to be an animal. Food scattered on the floor, stuff disheveled. And then it cuts back to Patrick. Parents are looking for Patrick. And then Patrick gets attacked by one of the Komodos, but you don't see it yet. He gets attacked by one of the Komodos. He's got his dog Buster with him. He runs back to the house with his dog Buster, goes into the house. Buster's not there. Patrick's in the house, in the kitchen. He's looking at the doggy door, and Buster's like, tick, 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 coming through the doggy door. And guess what happens? What happens to Buster, Devin?
The most predictable jump scare ever. The Komodo dragon jumps through the doggy door and eats Buster.
Yep, and eats Buster. Meanwhile, Patrick's parents are on the porch calling out for Patrick. They hear a noise. The next thing you know, you hear Patrick's parents screaming because they're getting killed and eaten alive by a bunch of Komodo dragons.
Yeah.
So this is basically how the movie opens and starts.
Yeah, every character you like dies.
Pretty much. So then we fast forward some undetermined time later. Patrick is at a house in a bedroom. There's a psychologist there and some woman named Annie. You literally never find out what this woman's relation is.
I thought she was his aunt.
Was she? Was she his
Maybe.
aunt?
I thought maybe it was mentioned aunt.
It might have.
Because they're called, she kept calling him family.
Patrick has PTSD, right, as you would imagine, for a kid that gets chased by a Komodo, watches his dog get eaten alive, and then has his parents get killed by a Komodo dragon. So Patrick has severe PTSD, and this psychologist is trying to treat him for it. And she gets the bright idea, I want to take Patrick back to this island to trigger his memories so that maybe I can learn some way to treat his PTSD.
The public doesn't know they were eaten alive.
Right.
An oil company, rich oil company, covered it up.
Yeah.
And said that they just disappeared.
Yeah. Annie, Victoria, and Patrick get on a ferry with Martin, the boat driver. They go to the island, and Martin informs them that the island has been taken over by an oil company that's drilling for oil, and they need to be careful not to get caught. Patrick, Annie, and Victoria go to Patrick's old house. Meanwhile, Martin, the boat driver's like, I should have gone after them. So he grabs a rifle and leaves his boat to go after them. Patrick's up in his bedroom. Victoria, the psychologist, is in the kitchen, and Annie's in the living room, and she hears a noise, or she sees a shadow outside pass by the window. So Annie goes outside to investigate, and then Victoria hears a noise. Victoria goes into the living room, and there's Annie laying on the couch with a big bite wound in her abdomen. And Victoria's freaking out. She doesn't know what to do. Patrick comes down there and just stands there and just stares at Annie with her wound. And then fucking Komodo dragon busts in the house. They're running from a Komodo dragon. Then one busts through the floor, pulls Annie through the floor, and kills Annie and eats her. And Patrick's still just standing there, just like.
Oh, this kid for the rest of his life is screwed. This kid absolutely grew up to be a killer.
Oh, 100%.
This kid is insane.
Absolutely. You're going to find, wait till we talk about what happens later. Oh boy. So, all right. So Victoria and Patrick run out of the house, run to the vehicle. They narrowly escape a Komodo dragon that bursts through their rear windshield, and they drive off. As they're driving down the road, they find Martin walking down the road with just horrible injuries, where I guess he got attacked by a Komodo dragon off screen. They get him in the vehicle. Now, let's take a moment to introduce the two guys on the island. So there's two guys on the island. One of them I assume is a hunter. The other one is a biologist named Oates, our other protagonist in the movie, right? They have been hired, Oates and the other guy have been hired by the head of the oil company to find and kill these Komodo dragons. Victoria, Patrick, and Martin are driving. These hunters are driving, and they almost have a head-on collision. They wreck. They both crash, total their vehicles, and then they all come together. And there is a Komodo dragon on the road that got ran over. And as they're meeting each other and trying to figure out what the hell to do, Patrick goes over to this Komodo dragon and digs its heart out with his bare hands and then runs off into a cornfield.
He's insane. He's insane. This kid has emo hair, frosted tips, and his whole family's dead.
Yes.
And he's ripping body parts from animals.
Yep. Serial killer.
I think he ate the heart. I think he took it to that little hut, cooked it up, did some crazy shit with it, and was like biting into it.
You know what? You never really see what happens to the heart.
You do not at all.
If you finish the job.
Patrick!
So Victoria chases after him, and then Oates is like, no, don't do that. So they all go back to some compound. They're at this compound. Martin dies from his injuries. Martin dies at the compound, the boat guy. And then there's a random scene it cuts to. I don't know if you remember this, but there's a random scene, really quick scene it cuts to, where you see Patrick, he grabs an apple, and he grabs a giant rope.
What?
Yeah, dude. Victoria and Oates get to know each other a little bit. The other hunter's dead at this point, got killed by a Komodo, and as he's dying, and by the way, the acting in this movie is terrible. And this guy's death acting in particular was really bad, but he hands Oates a cigar as he's dying, and he's like, smoke this one for me.
Smoke this for me, okay?
Victoria finds out that the reason Oates is doing this, is helping this oil company, is because apparently Oates' wife disappeared on the island in a swamp. You assume she got killed by some Komodos, and Oates makes a run for it because he knows the police are not going to believe him. He makes a run for it, and so now he's a wanted man, a suspicion of his wife's murder. And the head of the oil company, his name is Bracken, uses this as leverage to force him to help him hunt and kill these Komodo dragons. Who writes this shit, dude?
Also, it's just the basic trope of like the troubled hero, you know?
Yeah.
It's the most basic ass trope. His wife was killed, and now he's grizzled and he kills. How for 20 years did nobody see one Komodo dragon?
Exactly. Exactly.
What, they just came out of nowhere all of a sudden?
Exactly. It doesn't even.
Oh,
make
sorry,
any
not
sense.
20 years. 19 summers.
19 summers. Yeah, you gotta get it right. 19 summers. Oates and Victoria decide to get a boat in the swamp to go look for Patrick because Victoria, she's not gonna leave this island without saving Patrick because he's her responsibility, right? And she still has to finish his therapy. They find Patrick's hideout. Somehow Oates knows about Patrick's hideout. He's like, I know where to go. So they find Patrick's hideout. They go in there, and there's a random lizard being grilled on a makeshift grill in the middle of the hideout.
My thought was he's grilling the lizard not to eat, but to get the Komodos to smell it.
Yeah.
But I think he was just eating a fucking lizard because he's crazy.
Yeah.
This kid is insane.
Yeah. So there's two Komodo attacks at once. One Komodo is attacking Oates somewhere else in the hideout. He ends up killing it. But another Komodo shows up to attack Victoria, and it gets caught in a rope trap.
Oh, that's the rope.
Yeah.
There's the callback to the rope.
Exactly.
Well,
they set it up perfect.
What was the apple?
Dude, I still don't know.
You know what? I bet he got the seeds out of the apple, put the seeds in the ground. This oil company is going to go away, and now he's starting an oasis in the tree. The apple tree is going to grow, and it's going to grow like this beautiful rainforest.
And he's going to be a wild man just living off the land in the island.
He's going to start, like a habitat.
Yeah. This giant Komodo gets caught in this rope trap that pulls it up into the air. And you see Patrick up on a rafter. He has no shirt on. He's got blood painted on his chest, and he stabs the Komodo in the freaking brain with something while it's pulled up in the air. And he's just standing there like a badass.
Yeah, it's like he's Tarzan or something.
Yeah, what the was that all about, dude?
Dude, this kid is insane. He's an absolute psychopath.
There's another Komodo attacking, and Oates is standing in the water. He lights his cigar up. The Komodo comes after him, and he drops the cigar or something in the water because the water's flammable because it has oil in it. And there's this massive fire, and you think Oates is dead. You think he sacrificed himself to kill the Komodo. Well,
Oates!
then you see Bracken, the head of the oil company. He arrives on the island via helicopter with his team. So Oates steals the helicopter. He somehow finds Victoria and Patrick, lands the helicopter, picks them up on the helicopter, leave the island, stranding Bracken and his team on the island. They get back to town. They're all sitting on the sidewalk in the daytime in town, looking all exhausted and disheveled. Sheriff Gordon pulls up in his car. He gets out. He asks if they are okay, because clearly they're not okay, but he asks if they're okay. And Patrick looks at Sheriff Gordon and says, "Never better." And then the movie ends.
You guys okay?
Never better.
By the way, he had a friendship with that boat captain. They were like friends.
That's right. And
so
he died.
One of his closest friends is dead. He almost just got murdered. He just barely escaped, and he's having the best day of his life.
Yep.
This kid is insane.
Yep. He is going to be a serial killer.
Oh my.
100%.
The Komodo killer.
Dude, I like it.
The Komodo killer.
That needs to be the sequel.
That's what they're gonna call him.
The Komodo killer. So man, I don't know. What are some of your other thoughts on the movie?
I mean, honestly, my final thoughts are just that like every likable character gets brutally killed.
Yes. Yeah, I kind of like the boat guy, Martin.
Yeah,
I liked Martin.
And you never even see him really die.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's just bloody on the road.
Yeah.
So all the likable characters die. So the characters you don't care about live at the end. The kid's a psychopath. The man, the Oates is going to jail because they're still not going to believe that he didn't kill his wife.
Not only that, but he's just sitting there with a life-threatening injury where he got bit and he's got that saliva in his wound.
Yes.
And he's not even going to the hospital. He's just hanging out.
The woman is the worst therapist or whatever ever.
Just so bad. So bad. She literally f***ed the kid up more than he already was.
Oh, she turned him into the killer.
She did. And I bet she's his first victim.
Probably.
So the question here is, which movie was better, Komodo or Boa?
I think for me, it's clear.
Yeah.
Komodo's better.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's still better. It looks better. Boa just looks horrendous.
Oh, horrendous.
They pulled actors off the street.
Yeah.
It was a straight TV movie. Dean Cain, it looks awful. It's stupid. It's even more illogical than this.
Oh, way more. Yeah, way more.
So I think Komodo's better.
Yeah, I think so too.
Not much.
Not much. Yeah, so Komodo is definitely not a keeper.
No.
So you know what that means, folks. We're going to be giving it away over on the Instagram page, vhs.voyage. Link to that in the description down below. You will have 1 week from today, the day the video goes live, to enter that giveaway. That is it for today's episode of VHS Voyage on Komodo. I'm Matt.
I'm Devin.
And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.